Welcome back to yet another exciting episode of Branding Banter, your promo podcast. I'm Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA.
I'm Meg Erber, Director of Sales of Performa.
Stephen McFadden with TSC.
Sarah Goshgarian Unruh with Stalls, National Sales Manager.
Nice.
Into it.
Jump right into it. I love it. Very good. So officially part of the team, and I know that you were excited to have your last episode with us last week. So if you guys missed that, go check it out for sure. But yeah, we're here, we're live, we're ready to go. And yeah, Meg, how are you doing today?
You know what? I was telling you guys beforehand, I am so tired. I don't know if it's in the air. I don't know if I'm just burning the candle at both ends. I came home from Maine over the weekend and I was too tired to even go grocery shopping. So we've just been eating out. And I'm like, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow every day, but I'm just too tired to get up and do anything. So that's where I'm at. How about you guys?
Oh yeah, so tired from that relaxing vacation in Maine, you know?
Oh, it wasn't a vacation.
Oh, come on now. You don't go to the lake house and not have a vacation.
I guess.
All right, Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm tired, but only because I've been watching the NBA playoffs and my team's out west. So our game started at 10 o'clock. So
who's your team?
Nuggets.
Okay.
So
we're an old Denver guy.
Yeah. Oh, where's my? That's over there now.
Have you guys been watching the draft by any chance? I think there's so many memes out there right now about like the girlfriends that go and then they're just kind of like, hey, take a picture and I don't know.
You said, are you watching
yeah.
It's like, are you watching the draft as if it's like a season of The Bachelor that has like 30 days of it? It's
right.
It's over. It's over, man.
For a weekend.
Over.
All right, Sarah, real quick, as the time is counting down, anything that you saw over the last week from the comments or just excitement about you joining the team or anything like that?
I'm just so excited to join the team. So there was a lot of great comments on LinkedIn and people were super stoked. So I'm just excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you.
Thanks, you guys.
Very excited to have you. Very excited to have you. So we are going to talk today about a very cool episode, and I think you joining the broadcast is certainly very well timed with this episode because we're going to talk about in-house versus outsourced decoration. And I think we all have a lot to share about this for sure. Stephen, you as a past decorator or a past distributor that did in-house decoration. Meg, you with your experience in the past, doing from the distributor side and then from the from the supplier side, how that all works. And myself as well. Both having to outsource decoration as a distributor, and then Sarah, you work for Stalls now, so you've got a lot to contribute to the conversation. So where do we want to start? Is there any nerdy news that we want to throw out immediately, or do we just want to talk about sort of some of the benefits of one versus the other?
Why don't we talk about, very quickly, define what both of them are, just for people who may not know, might be living under a rock. Let's define what in-house decorating is versus, outsourcing. And I think we should talk, Alyssa, this way. Let the new industry expert on decorating,
me,
Sarah, we'll let her kick off and give us those definitions and kind of describe the difference between the two.
Yeah, so in-house decorating for me, and this is how I define it. So you guys tell me if you look at it differently. Is anybody who's doing any sort of decorating of apparel in-house. And that could be hats, it could be t-shirts, it could be sweatshirts, but that could be screen printing, embroidery, transfers, patches would be my fourth. I think I would stick in that bucket. And then outsource would be obviously utilizing a decorator, somebody that you're sending your projects to. So you're sending your orders of your t-shirts or your hats, and they're doing the decorating for you. And in some cases, suppliers do that in-house, like Headwear USA. I think you guys do your decorating of hats. Like you could buy them blank or you can buy them decorated, right? So that's how I define it. Would you guys say, are we all on board, same page?
Yeah, I mean, in-house, and I think I would add is that you have your own capabilities to be able to decorate inside, whether you have a heat press, you have some silk screen machines set up in your garage, or you have an embroidery, some embroidery head. Yeah, I think, and I guess we can dive into pros and cons, but I will say I'm from being on the supplier side and the blank. On the blank side of things, we didn't really do any. Well, I don't say we didn't do any decorating. So I didn't have any experience on that aspect of it. But as time went on, and I talked to my customers, I actually was talking to Justin Brubaker from Apex one day, and he was like, Meg, I'm short like 12 pieces on something. My event's tomorrow. I need to have them printed. Or it was like 2 days. He's like, what do I do? I was like, I don't know. What do you do? I was like, I don't know. Then I was like, you have a heat press. And it was like a light went off because I know that he can get transfers literally the next day. Like you put them in through stalls or one of the other conglomerates that do these, and then you can literally put them in and then have them the next day. So he went on Amazon, bought a heat press, bought the transfers, and was able to turn those last 12 pieces around very quickly for his customer, and he saved the day. So I think that's a huge benefit. And when I talk to the franchise owners, they're looking for these solutions, and I'm like, well, listen, you can now do spec samples very quickly. You can control production. Granted, if you have like a big 8,000 piece order, heat pressing one at a time may not be the best use of your time, but you can get ahead of a project. You can offer pre-pros, spec samples. Something happened and you're not getting, in time, you can meet an in-hand date very quickly, a rush order. Just from my perspective, that was where I saw in-house decorating be super beneficial. And I went and did the same thing. I had those Water for Good volunteer t-shirts. I had to turn around very quickly. I ordered the t-shirts from SNS. I had the blank. I literally pressed them in my living room and then overnighted them so we had them in time. And so I got it all done in a matter of 3 days, including shipping to me, printing, and then shipping back out. So that's incredible. Like if you can turn some t-shirts or some hats or even some drinkware pieces, that's super incredible.
I'd actually like to talk about like just the advancements of transfers too over time and how much easier things have gotten and how much better they've gotten. Because I think before there was a really like a bad stigma with transfers.
Right, you think like a cricket almost, right? And then the shit peels off.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
It was a bad word. You're right, Jeff. It
Yeah.
was a bad word. Like even nowadays, and it's the transition, it's like, it's not a dirty word. Like it's okay to utilize transfers. And really for the most part, people probably don't know when a transfer is actually being utilized for decoration versus truly being screen print in house. Like it's really hard to tell the difference.
Yeah, those Water for Good t-shirts, if you can't tell that it's a transfer, you can't tell. It actually looks like it's screen printed. So Stephen, you actually used to decorate all of our Industry Insider shirts. So I would send them blanks and then he would decorate them with a nice piece of embroidery. You don't have that anymore, right? You got rid of that?
We do. We just still have some decoration, but we've gone through some ebbs and flows. So for those of you that know me, when I was with our legacy company, we had at kind of our peak, we had 24 heads of embroidery. We had flat heat presses. We had hat heat presses for patches on hats. At one point, we even had 2 direct-to-garment printers. So we kind of experimented in a lot of different places. The DTGs were first to go. They were like, out of here. Especially when the technology was what it was, and we had like a whole section set up to pre-treat spray, and it was putting sticky stuff all over the warehouse. I mean, it was not a clean process. So we're like, if we're ever
why it was the first thing to go though, because I know that like when that first came out, I remember going to like the ISS shows and seeing that, and people's minds were blown that you could just literally throw this thing in like a commercial printer and it would just like print.
It was it's a time base. It's limited by time, so it's like you couldn't print it faster, and you could only print like we had one that could do 9 at a time, and we could have one that could do 1 at a time, but the only one that could print on dark garments was the 1 at a time, because of the way the pre-treat work and the white underbase and all that stuff. So it was like, you do the math on it, and it's like this thing has to be running constantly, like just to break even with the price of the machines were in the beginning. Now it's so much easier with direct to film, but which would have been much cleaner of a process too. But yeah, no, we went through. One thing to consider with in-house decoration is some people choose to like be a contract decorator and support their own in-house stuff. So when we went into decoration originally, we actually had purchased a contract decorator who was going to go out of business. So we said, all right, well, this is a good opportunity for us to have an embroidery solution that we have more flexibility with. We can do our own samples, do our programs, because programs are really where in-house decoration becomes a great resource, because who wants to do one piece at a time or, 3 pieces at a time. So we had that, but it's like, well, while we have all these machines, we still need to have the contracts to fill up the workload of the embroidery machines. And COVID killed that pretty quickly, because we were now dependent on everybody's else's work, and we didn't know what that was going to be. It was too volatile. So we decided we were going to pare down to do our own embroidery, specifically just so we could control that. We knew what our own business was, so we had that. And then with the acquisition, we actually prior to the acquisition, we actually had pared it down even more. We were down to like 2 single heads just to run our program stuff, as well as a tackle tool machine, and then the heat presses for some of those program jobs. And then we've now moved that up to our Pennsylvania facility, where there's a bigger embroidery facility. So we still have it, but we've gone through being a contractor, being not a contractor, having 20 heads, going to 2 heads. So it's like, but it's hard to make the math work sometimes as an in-house decorator.
I can see that. And I think the stuff that's really interesting is what has come out most recently with the DTF. Like, I don't have a sample here, but I did have one from Stalls. Sarah, you can actually probably speak to this. Like, you have these transfers now that work on drinkware. They're pressure applied, right?
Yeah, pressure sensitive. So pressure sensitive, and you can't peel them off. It's a 3M adhesive, and it's pressure sensitive, and you can't peel it off. So for me, it gives people the ability, if you're going to do hats, right? Like, it's a 25-piece minimum. And so it gives you the ability to decorate multiple types of items with the same type of patch. And so, which is great. And so people love that universal story behind merch. And so that really kind of helps things stay on brand. But we're doing a hat bar. Like, those are huge right now. You've seen like the multiple patches on hats, and I'm sure, Jeff, like, you guys don't want to be putting multiple patches all over hats, but people are wanting like these activations on site. So we're hosting a happy hour on Thursday. I'm on the road this week in Texas, in Austin, and we're like at a cider bar happy hour. We're going to be pressing hats and letting people like touch the machines, use it, create, whatever they want onto the face of a hat. So
I love that idea. It's so much fun to have something interactive like that. We did that at our MDC, and they have this, you pick out whatever hat you want, and then you have like a whole thing of different transfers to choose from.
Yeah.
Whatever aligned with how you felt. And mine said like, howdy, y'all. And I was like, this is so cool. I thought you had to press it and everything else. What were you going to say, Stephen? Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say that reminded me, when we were doing a lot of work with East Carolina, we used to do custom graduation stoles, like the sashes that people would wear. People would fill out their order forms, and then, we would embroider them. So after a few years of that being like a super successful program, I had mentioned to the buyer, I'm like, since you have a brand new store, I said, what if we like made this really cool? We brought an embroider machine, and those are like crazy heavy, right? But we were like, let's bring an embroider machine to the building, and we'll do embroidery live while people are ordering stuff. Like, they can't take their order to go, but they can see how it works and stuff like that. And so we did. We had it was a single head, so we didn't need like an air ride or whatever. But we were able to take a single head down there and set it up in the bookstore, and we're running embroidery in there. And we actually, I was curious. We actually got about 15% more sales than we did prior year. Just because it was there, people were coming over, but it was a really cool program. So
it is. People like to see that, like see how it's made. And I remember back in the day when Hub 10 used to, like, the line at the trade show would be like wrapped around just so people could get their name printed on a pen. I was one of them. I'm pretty sure I lost that pen, but yeah. So yeah, that's kind of neat to see how it's done. And I think that offering that experiential, people just, and then you're selling more because of it. So I love the hat bar. I love the on-demand. I'm a big fan of it, on-demand printing. But I get it. I can support, Jeff, that's where you would come in. You were kind of that outsourced, all-in-one headwear provider. Tell us how that looks when, like you have I guess your competitors would be the people that want to do it themselves, right? Or
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a little bit different when you're using a supplier to do something. I think when I think about in-house versus outsourced decoration, I think more along the lines of ordering blank apparel and then either printing it yourself or embroidering it yourself or sending it to a decorator. I think when you're using a supplier that, does, encompass all of those things, I think it's a little bit different. I mean, you're still technically outsourcing the decoration, but you could also order the blanks from us and do it in-house if you wanted. So I think, but as far as outsourcing it, I mean, essentially, you don't have to worry about any of the overhead. You don't have to worry about, constantly trying to find skilled labor, because trying to run an embroidery machine is not something just anybody can do. The cost of it, like those bobbins and stuff are pretty expensive. People don't realize the cost that actually goes into that stuff. Constantly, having to trim and do all those sorts of things. So, there's huge benefits to not doing it in-house, as well as huge benefits to doing it in-house. The fact that you get to control the quality of everything, you get to control the production timelines, so yeah, that's honestly, as far as outsourcing it, I think if you can find somebody that's doing it, at a really good price, and you can, afford to sell it and outsource it, that's probably what you should do. Just because your time is better spent being able to go sell product and do different things like that, rather than having to deal with staff to, print the stuff yourselves. But there's definitely huge benefits both ways.
Yeah, I think so too. But I will say with DTS, anybody can do it because I can do it.
Yeah,
For sure.
I will say, to Jeff's point, I mean, no matter how easy it is to print something or do something or not, they're separate businesses. I mean, like, one's a decoration business and one is sales, so it's like you need to have those well managed, well staffed, and they, you really do, especially for smaller businesses. I feel like that would be more difficult. We found ourselves getting spread out. It's like, why are we spending so much time back here, like managing the embroidery team, when now I'm not selling, to Jeff's point, it's like, so.
Yeah, if you're a 1 or 2 person operation, I would try to steer clear of it unless you have it just as like a backup, so that when you get those situations like Meg talked about, where, hey, oh my gosh, something happened, I didn't get all my shirts, or I need this and I've got to deliver it for my client in 2 days. Some of those success stories that Steven used to talk about, like literally driving to a UPS hub to pick stuff up and then take it to an event at like the 11th hour. That sort of stuff. I mean, it's always good to have as a backup, but I certainly wouldn't make it your primary focus. If you're, a smaller business, it's something that I feel like is a little bit more advanced once you get, multiple people under your belt. You've got somebody running operations, and, you still have your sales team, because it is definitely a whole nother beast for sure. Sarah,
unless you're running a TikTok shop. And then it becomes, I'm telling you, we have so many people who have just gone viral with shirt designs, and they are literally a 1 or 2 person operation and just heat pressing inside of their home. And so it's kind of like your Etsy, right? But I agree, when it comes to like corporate work, I would say, I think it's good to leave it to the experts.
That's a fair point.
Find a good expert.
That's a fair point to make, because I'm very tunnel vision thinking about just our industry, but there's a lot of people out there for sure that they're running, those kinds of pop-up shops and things. So
yeah,
absolutely. Anything else to add before we shut this one down?
There's so much to talk about. I feel like in this, it's not going to get done in 20 minutes. I literally talk about it all day long with some of the franchise owners that I work with. So I don't know. If anyone has any questions about this episode, or if they would like to talk about ideas about this, like, just reach out to one of us or post it in the comments, because we all have a background in some sort of decorating, or in-house versus out-house, and we can definitely speak to our experiences of it. But drop your questions in the comments. We'll do our best to get back to them and answer them with our, experience. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
you asked me about data. The only thing I could find so far was that it said less than 40% of the industry has in-house decoration, and it says that what's that?
That's interesting.
That's a huge number.
Well, it says less than. I mean, I don't know. That was the best I could get from the data out there. But it also says, like, the number of that 40%, if you dive into it, it goes up the larger your business is. So that's obvious. So I think you could eliminate.
Show of hands.
Yeah.
How many of you have a heat press? There you go. I think we
Do
just
we
proved
use
the
it?
stats wrong.
How many
there
do
you
you
go. I do
I
use
printed
it.
towels for my daughter's birthday. She had a pool party, and so I printed towels with a
What
date
PO
stamp.
did you put that against for the promo industry, though?
You know.
Well, we
You
didn't
know.
even talk about fulfillment of online stores. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There's just a lot out there when it comes to
Yeah.
decorating. So
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's anything else you guys want to hear about as far as this, whether you talked about the fulfillment or doing stuff on the back end for yourself or whatever, definitely put it in the comments and maybe we can make a future episode about it and sort of on some of those things. But yeah, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess we'll shut this one down. And until next time, guys, we'll be seeing you.